Welcome to the Enlightened Pet Behavior Podcast. I'm your host, Susan Light. In a world overflowing with conflicting advice and often misguided information, my mission is to be your trusted source for accurate, kind, and truly effective strategies to understand and shape your pet's behavior. Join me as we shed light on common challenges and work to foster a deeper, more harmonious bond with our beloved furry family members. If you find the show helpful and enjoyable, please consider showing your support. Subscribing, following, rating, reviewing, and sharing with friends. It just takes a moment, but it significantly boosts the show's visibility and helps more pet parents discover it. Thank you for your support. Let's get into it. Today, we're talking about pet first aid. If you want to know what to do if your pet has an emergency, this episode is not intended to replace real first aid training, but more to let you know that is something that's out there for you. We will give you some helpful advice and let you know where you can get more training. Check the show notes for links if you're interested. My guest is a certified pet first aid instructor who works with pet professionals who want to feel properly prepared, not just hopeful that they'll know what to do. She's supported dog walkers, groomers, trainers, pet sitters, and daycare teams to build practical, real world skills that they can rely on when it matters most. No fluff, no scare tactics, just clear, straightforward training to help you stay calm and take action. Her qualifications include an associate's degree in animal agriculture, certified pet first aid instructor, and a certificate in education and training. Please welcome Aubrey Oiller. Well, hello. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Who's right next to you?
So this is Clifford. He is a rehome. We've had him for about a year now. So unfortunately, his owners got divorced, and so their accommodation didn't allow pets. So we took him in.
Oh, I'm glad you found you guys. Sweet guy. So tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Aubrey, and I own Bluebell Pet Care. So my business, I teach pet owners as well as pet professionals about what to do in emergencies. So if they have an animal that collapses and needs CPR, or they're choking, maybe they're experiencing their first epileptic seizure, it's just giving that preparedness of what to do and creating that buffer for the gap of incident to getting to the vet in those first really crucial few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a background in human first aid. I was a lifeguard. I've actually done CPR and used an AED on a human. It's been many, many years. But I found that finding training for pet first aid is kind of difficult. I know when years and years and years ago, back when I was lifeguard, the Red Cross offered a pet first aid course, and I took it. And they had the little dummies that was a little dog and a little cat, and they don't offer that anymore. It's really hard to find an in-person training for somebody interested in this information, at least
Yeah.
here in the States.
Well, yeah, no, and it's it is a relatively newer thing, I guess. And certainly I think I confuse people because when they see me on, say, Instagram, Facebook, they hear my accent, because originally I'm from Indiana. And I'm Yeah, so I've lived here, oh my gosh, I've lived here over 10 years. And so I do have a bit of a muddled accent because I've lived here for so long. Um, but then they're like, "Oh, I'd love to come to your class. Do you, I'll get messages all the time. Do you cover Texas? Do you cover and all these and I'm like, "I'm really, really sorry." I said, "I know you probably see my videos, hear my accent, and you assume," which fair enough. But when people then ask me, "Well, do you know of anyone that I could go to?" There are not many. I follow a company out of Canada. I follow someone who is in New York. But even within New York, like that's a long distance across state, even in the city. So
Yeah.
it does seem to be something that is lacking. Unfortunately, in the UK, we do have quite a few providers, but it's about finding a good quality course as well. So
100%.
yeah, it's anyone could just get online and take a pet first aid course, and there's definitely they have their place, especially with having refreshers. But really, you want to get in person with, like you said, with a mannequin, multiple different types of mannequins as well, because there's going to be different scenarios. So no, I feel your pain. Um,
Yeah.
but with human first aid, there are a good amount of transferable skills. It's just about getting into a pet first aid class to figure out anatomically where we tweak those for the shape of a dog or a cat.
And safety, right? Because
Mhm.
that's the thing is a human's not gonna bite you while you're
Yes.
trying to splint their leg,
I
but
would
a
hope
dog
not,
might.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it's true. So here when I went to find the first aid class for Red Cross again, now it's online. It's like a half an hour slideshow. It's I don't wanna say it's useless, information is good, but it's really not anything like they used to offer. Here in, the States, so the certification I have right now is from Pet Tech is what the company's called, but even that I live in Los Angeles. You would think if any city would have availability of live classes, it would be LA. I had to drive an hour away, and the 4 of us that were in my group were the only 4 in the class.
Oh my
And
god.
so
Wow.
I know, and so I think that it's this weird thing of, like, there's not enough demand, so there's no classes, but then there's no classes if somebody wants to go. So true, so
True,
even this
yeah.
company that does in-person classes, in the States, it's really hard to get a class.
Wow. Yeah. No, and it's interesting because I do on my end, I have people asking, but you get that with any class, you'll get people that inquire and then there might not be, like you said, they put on the class and then nobody shows up. But it does surprise me that there's not quite the appetite for it in some areas. Because it would be like with you see, I mean, you would get them, in the States as well, but, like, when people are new parents and they wanna learn pediatric first aid for,
Yeah.
what if their child chokes or, drowning and things like that, most parents would be like, "Yeah, I really wanna know about these things." And the same can really be said about pets because most people regard their dog or their cat as almost like an extension of
Yeah.
children. So you would wanna know what to do in those instances, and, it's just about I guess also it's kind of about learning that pet first aid even exists. The amount of people
Yes.
that I speak to that are like, "Oh, you teach pet first aid? I didn't even know that was a thing." Even though we have multiple companies over here that offer it, I still encounter people on a weekly basis that were like, "Wow, I had no clue."
Yeah, and the number of people I see turning to social media to ask for help when their animal is having, an emergency, it's like, I think there is a need there. So if you're watching this and you were like, "Oh my god, pet first aid, it's something I can learn," there'll be some links in the show notes if you want to take some classes with Aubrey. But let's just talk about. I love that you said drowning. I don't want to say I love it, but I'm in Los Angeles and there's a lot of swimming pools. So um, that's a good place to start. I think a lot of people assume that dogs and cats can swim, so that it's not necessarily dangerous if they fall in their pool, but that's not necessarily true, yeah?
Yeah, especially with, pools and pool covers. So if they slip underneath that pool cover, there is nowhere to go, and I know with children, it's the same sort of concern, especially with smaller dogs, and if you don't have an escape route for them to get out, then you're looking at some trouble. So with things like pools, making sure that those are covered up, making sure that they don't, first of all, have really access to it, so fencing around it, in terms of looking at drowning from a river, stream, open water like ocean, sea sort of stuff, that's where it really gets dangerous, and you shouldn't be afraid to call emergency services to assist you in that. I teach that a lot in my classes of it's not going to be feasible for you to go into the water after them if it's something like that because just like in people where animals are gonna panic and they're gonna go, "Well, I'm just gonna climb on top of you," to try to get out of the water, which for them, great idea, but for you, even a confident swimmer, it doesn't matter how confident of a swimmer you are, if someone is sitting on top of your head, sitting on top of your shoulders, that is really gonna impact. I swim 5 days a week, but there is no way, if I'm gonna go after somebody or something, I'm gonna be able to keep myself above water as well as them, without some sort of either assistance and tools to do so. So when you're calling emergency services as well, if you get stranded out there and there's an animal, they're gonna prioritize you first, which means ultimately you're leaving that animal out there longer. And if you just handle emergency services, they could go out and help the animal, and then you can be safe yourself, a lot of what I teach, not only just for drowning, but for all sorts of other emergencies is you can't help the first casualty if you're the second one. So you have to do a scene safety survey, whether it's traffic with cars. In the UK, we have the added issue of trains. A lot of people going across railway crossings. They'll let dogs run across railway crossings without a lead on, and ours are electrified lines. So not only do we have the issue of trains and a collision with you in the train, but electrocution is a real huge risk. Um, so those are the sort of things I talk to people about it. You've got to look at that scene survey first and make a decision. Is it going to impact me? And then you have to go from there, sadly.
Yeah, and as a former lifeguard, it's true, like, we use flotation devices to keep all of us, the lifeguards are very strong swimmers, but you're right, you can't save someone that's trying to drown you. The water, you don't have any kind of, leverage, and I have seen a lot of sad stories of humans drowning trying to save their dogs that were in the ocean.
Yeah,
So
a lot of times, and animals are better swimmers, I think, than what some people give them credit for, and understandably, you see the animal's head going under, and they're struggling, and your first instinct is, "I can just get out there really quickly, and I can grab them," but a lot of the stories that you see where someone has gone out after the animal, the person ends up drowning, unfortunately, and actually, the animal will eventually you'll see the
sometimes, yeah.
I say, "I to shore."
Yeah. So that's is the number one rule of first aid is you want to help, but you're not going to be any help if you become in danger as well. So in human first aid, we teach call 911, and I know you said call emergency services. So obviously you can call, I think maybe the Coast Guard or the lifeguard services if your dog's in the ocean drowning, but there is no 911 for animals, right? Like there's no ambulance that's going to show up and take them to the vet. So what do you tell people to do in those situations?
So you still want to call for help, and that might be calling someone else to come pick you up while you're administering first aid that could drive you there. It could be if you are in a town or a city that's built up that you call, any vet you can call and they will all know each other. And you can say, look, is someone nearby to come to me? It's unlikely, but if you have run out of options and you're like, look, I've called, people aren't picking up their phones and I have no means of getting them there, we might be able to get to you if they say, hey, we can call so and so. They're just around the corner. That might be an option, but really, it could ultimately be you need to stabilize them or just get them into the vehicle, whether it's in your back seat, in a crate, something to keep them contained until you get to that vet, the emergency vets. Because, yeah, there is no dog and cat 911. There is going to be no emergency services in terms of like ambulance. That's not going to be something that is going to be able to come out to you. So it's gonna kinda be down to you to either be that transport or arrange for that transport yourself.
I think the only thing we have here, and I don't know in the UK, but is animal control. But they're certainly not going to get to you as quickly as an ambulance, right? So, like, if there's
Mm.
an animal that you can't get to, they're like growling at you, snapping. You're like, it's not safe for me to try to get this dog out of traffic or whatever. You can call animal control, but it's likely going to be hours before an officer is going to come out. So it's not a great option.
Yeah, yeah, so we have the same with, it would be a dog warden, and they really just deal with dogs, really. They will deal with most animals, but most of the time, it's gonna be same as you said, if you can even get a hold of them, that's the other thing. They're more of a keeping of a law and order sorta thing, than it is gonna be from emergency standpoint. And the only emergency lines that I really know of, it's not really it is an emergency line, but there are pet poison hotlines. So there's one in the US and there's one in
Oh,
the
yeah.
UK as well.
There's 2 in the US. Yeah.
Oh, there's two. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So, but they do the poison control does charge money.
Yeah.
Because it has, it doesn't, people are upset, but they're like, you can call 911, but that receives funding. But there's no funding for the animal poison control through the government. So people are like, I can't believe they won't charge me $100. It's like, honestly, like, it can't exist otherwise. It has to do
Yeah.
that. And I know that that $100 saved me a trip to the vet when my dog licked some like bug spray, and I was like, "Oh my god, what did I do? Is this dangerous?" So it's a really great service, and I think it's worth it. Um, and ultimately, it can save you money because I think a trip to the
Yeah.
emergency vet is going to cost more than that if you need to go, and you might still need to go, but it is a great service. But be prepared that they are going to charge you some money.
Yeah, yeah. So ours charges, I think the highest they charge is £45, which would be about $60. But considering, especially if you call on a weekend or it's 3 o'clock in the morning, out of hours emergency vet, you're looking at about £350 just to set them on the table. That's,
Yeah.
probably about $500. And while I'm not about the money, like, if I can save money, great. But my issue would be, say, Clifford absolutely hates going into the vet. He's reactive. He doesn't like other dogs. If I can keep him comfortable and happy at home and get the same advice from a professional, then I'm going to do that for more of his well-being. And then if we have to go in, we go in. But yeah, it ultimately could 45 pounds versus 350 pounds. It could save you some
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
And it's the peace of mind of like, should I just wait and see if something bad happens? Or, you know, is I'm not,
Yeah.
my little dog's 8 pounds. And so I put on some bug spray and then she like licked it off my skin. And I was like,
Oh.
she's so little. Like, I know that stuff's not good for her. So thankfully, they were like, that dose, it's probably, and she was fine, but totally worth it. But to be prepared for people with that. So I know our goal today is not to like replace a class. We want people to know classes exist and this is great. What do you think though you want people to know about, like, I think preventing some of these emergencies? What are some really common things that people can do around like their house to avoid some of these emergency situations?
Yeah, so prevention is something I talk about an awful lot because most of the things that people see are preventable. So, for example, toxin ingestion that we were just talking about, the amount of stuff that people just leave around. And I get it. I've got Clifford is absolutely food hungry. He will grab something off a coffee table in a heartbeat. Um, and so he's been caught before. So every time I leave this house, I look around. I have a look at what's around. Is there anything left on the coffee table? Is there anything even on the chairs that he could jump up on? So I just kind of do that scan, and it takes me an extra 2 minutes before I leave the house, and it's going to help me avoid something. With choking, people often, and I see this, and it makes me just sweat because I've had to deal with a choking incident twice. One with my own dog and one with a client's dog, but because of my training, I was able to save them. But it was involving chews, so like natural
Mhm.
chews to things like tracheas, bully sticks, those sort of chews that when they get to the very end of that chew, they're tempted to just swallow the rest of it. And people going, "Oh, well, my dog's gonna be bored while I'm at work. I'm gonna leave them a chew in their crate or their kennel." If they are not there to intervene, they might say, "I've got a dog walker going in later on." But are they gonna be there the exact time they consume that? Probably not. Um, so I actually have it here because Clifford was playing with it. So again, it's
Great.
not something that is going to replace supervision. It's something to give them while you're supervising. But this is called adjust a chew. You may have something equivalent in the states.
We do.
Um,
We do.
so where you stick it in the middle and then you adjust it so they can. It's held on and you don't have to worry about them getting that last bit. After my shaking incidences, I swear by these now. Absolutely adore them.
Yeah.
um, and I
People can just Google bully stick holder. Um,
Oh,
and
perfect.
some, yeah, some are better than others. I've seen dogs tear the bully stick out of some, but
Uh,
I think I think it has little metal teeth. The one that I have has a metal tooth too that really holds on to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
I did over the weekend at, something called Paw Fest, which is just like a dog show. I actually did a demo with this. I mean, Clifford was with me because I did a demo on how to help a dog that's choking. He's even looking at it now.
He's like, "Give it to me."
Sorry, there's something that you just lick it, I guess. But doing a demo, and someone came up to me after my talk about choking and prevention of choking, and they were like, I didn't even think about that. They said we've seen it before where our dogs have just gulped the last bit, but they're like, we just didn't think that there was a product out there that'd be able to help. And so I sell those on my online shop for people over here.
Do you I don't wanna interrupt you, but I saw something at the store that made me cringe, which was little chunks of bully sticks. Literally just a bag
Mm,
of those chokeable chunks.
yeah.
And I was like, "What? What are you doing?" So,
Well,
I think this is something people need to be aware of is not everything that's being sold for your animal is safe,
Yeah,
right?
which kinda another one in choking that is getting more and more common that people don't really think about until it happens is tennis balls. Um, I've seen more than enough videos on TikTok and Instagram reels of vets that are pushing tennis balls, and it's sad that I even have to teach it in classes, but I say to people, just either use the really large Kong brand tennis balls that are, much bigger. Obviously, a standard size tennis ball for something like Dachshund or a Chihuahua or something is going to be okay. But it's when people have the ball throwers and they're throwing them straight up in the air, and the dog is looking straight up in the air, and then that ball just goes right down the throat. Um, and then you get where the dog is just full on going and catching, and it starts when those tennis balls get really slobbery, they start collapsing, and then they swallow them, and then they spring back into their normal shape. And I say to people, like, I'm not saying your dog cannot enjoy being a dog, but it needs to be safe for them to be a dog. So is that we're just adjusting a small thing. All you need to do is just adjust the size, and then you don't have to worry about choking. If we look for things first, we can avoid the toxin ingestion. It's kind of about looking around and thinking, could they swallow that? And I say, as a rule of thumb, if you had to stop and think about it and go, "Ooh, is that a good idea?" You probably need to change something, and it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
drastic. It can just be a really small change.
Yeah. So the rule of thumb, so people know for a choking hazard, is anything that can fit. So if you think about your teeth and your dog's teeth, right? The shape and size of like the jaw, the teeth, if they can fit inside that, they can swallow it. So if you think
Yeah.
about a normally sized golden retriever who loves to play a tennis ball, German shepherd, right? Like these are the dogs that the tennis ball fits inside their teeth. And that's going to be a choking hazard. My little 8-pound chihuahua, who's never cared about tennis balls, but she can't possibly swallow one. But they make little tennis balls for little dogs that can be a choking hazard for a little dog, right? So every dog is different. That's the size. And you need to keep it in mind with Kongs as well, because Kongs come in different sizes because you need it to be too big for them to accidentally swallow, and Kong has a hole in it that's supposed to buy you some time to get it out, if they were, but the just don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. So,
Yeah.
yes, it's never occurred to some people, but, it's absolutely a hazard for your dog.
Yeah, and even with pet business owners, so dog walkers, for example, they take a group out, and a lot of dog walkers over here just eliminate toys from groups because it causes behavioral shift between the group.
Yeah.
It can change that group dynamic to where now you start a fight, and now we're in some trouble. Um, the other issue is that they then are, "Oh, well, I need small toys for the small dog, and I need bigger toys for the large dog." But what they don't consider is when the large dog goes, "Hey, I want that small dog's toy now," and then they grab that one and they swallow it. So I say either you need to have all large dog toys and accommodate for the largest dog in your group, or just get rid of them. The dogs can play with each other. Don't necessarily need toys or anything like that.
Yeah. So what about a first aid kit? Um, we have human first aid kits. You can certainly buy a pet first aid kit, but like, what are some helpful things to have around your house and your car for your pets in an emergency?
Yes, no, I mean, being in the pet business industry, I mean, I used to be a dog walker, pet sitter. So I've kind of seen it from both sides as a dog owner and a pet business owner. But with designing your own kit, maybe you've got a kit. I'll discuss some useful things that you want to put in there. And the main thing for me would be your bandaging gear. So if you've got a split paw pad, if you have got a puncture, you're going to want to make sure that you get that pressure on right away and you get that covered so that we're also helping to risk that sort of risk of infection. And so I would say, you're getting your low adherent bandages, which most people know is like a little square, and that's what you're going to push down onto the injury. And you're going to help create that blood clot. And then you'll have your conforming layer, which is most people know it as gauze. It's going to be your soft layer, and then vet wrap. So most people know vet wrap. They love vet wrap. It comes in all the different designs. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at most farm stores. I don't know if, I mean, Los Angeles is probably not the place for like, say, Tractor Supply, what we have in the Midwest. But you can get loads of it there as well. Um, or maybe listeners that are outside of California. But it's really good to have not only for bandaging, but it can be used to cover things. Just until you can get into the vet. Um, so having all the bandage gear like that, all your wraps and stuff is really essential, along with some sort of blood stop. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could just be there's a brand and it's actually from the US and I stock it over here. It's called Petkins and they're blood stop swabs. They look like little Q-tips that you put in your ear and they contain a blood stop fluid. Say you cut a nail a little bit too short, you just snap the top little Q-tip butt, if you will. The fluid goes to the bottom, and then you just press that up against the nail, and you're good
I've
to go.
never
Because
seen those.
oh, they're so convenient.
Great.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and there's like 24 in a pack, so you don't have to worry about, say, septic powders.
Fantastic.
Septic
I
powders.
use septic powder and it's acidy.
Yeah, and they also, if the septic powder comes in a pot, then yeah, if you don't use it quick enough and moisture gets into it, it solidifies into a brick and you've wasted loads of product. Whereas these come in just little individual sticks and they're
That's
perfect tub to
fantastic.
go. Um,
That's great.
an antiseptic. So we have Lucillin in the UK, but you'll have Vetsin over there.
Mhm.
So that's a really, really good one. There's
And people
loads.
should not use human antiseptics on dogs. Don't put
Yeah.
Neosporin on your dog's cut, please, okay? They will lick it off
Yeah.
and it's not okay.
I mean, I am a huge fan of Neosporin. Like it's amazing, but you're right. It contains things like zinc oxide. So do a lot of sunscreen, sun protection. That also contains. There is dog sunscreen made by the same brand that the blood stop swabs, Petkin. Um, they make dog safe sunscreen in a spray form and a stick form. Um, but again, it doesn't have any of those additives. And you're absolutely right. People raiding their own human medicine cabinet in order to think, oh, well, I'll save myself from going to the vet. And while, yes, vets do prescribe human medication that, is quite common, you don't know the dosage. Your vet also knows your animal's health record and the dosages that would be appropriate for any sort of side effects they may get. And you don't want to go making little medical cocktails in your kitchen. It can have absolutely dire consequences. And even with dogs and cats, the differences are massive. So,
Very true.
you know, acetaminophen or paracetamol, as it's known over here, is absolutely deadly to cats.
Toxic.
And people just don't realize it. They'll go, "Oh, well, my vet told me one time I could use this." They go, "Oh, well, they did it for the dogs. It must be okay for the cat." And it's absolutely devastating. So most
Yeah,
vet
never assume you can give them a human medication. Never assume that.
no. And if it can be given, your vet, most vets are quite happy to tell you,
Yeah.
we can write you a prescription for this, and then you can buy it from the pharmacy. And most of the time, the price is quite comparable. It is over here anyway, in terms of trying to make sure that they're giving you the best care, but also, some vets, if they can prescribe something that is over the counter human. It's not always possible because of certain systems over here. But there are some medications they can, and they're quite open, and they'll help you do that.
Yeah, definitely. So be careful rating your first aid kit for sure. And especially because again, the Leosporin's topical, but they're gonna lick it, they're gonna ingest it. Um, it's funny, for humans, we're moving away from Neosporin. Hearing all the advice is just Vaseline, Vaseline, Vaseline.
Really?
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot. Like we're moving away from Benadryl, right, to the second generation antihistamines. We just know more about. They're like Vaseline does about the same thing, and you don't get dermatitis like some. I'm not allergic to to Neosporin, but I guess some people have a
Oh,
bad reaction.
wow.
Well,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and I'm on Vaseline kick, but I don't know that I would put it on the dog's paw without the vet telling me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've seen
Anything
people in
on
the
it.
States do it, and I'm like, "Oh," I know they'll say, "Oh, well, it's an antibiotic ointment," but I'm like, "Yeah, but there's other ingredients in there, and there's gonna be no testing for that. It's gonna be you're just guessing, and it's not, you don't wanna be guessing on your pet's care."
Is there anything else you just like, either something you want to debunk or that you hear all the time, or that you just really want to make sure people understand before we sign off?
I would just say if you can find an in-person class and you've got a pet, educate yourself the best that you can. Even if it's just if all you have available to you is an online class, take an online class. It's like you said, it is at the end of the day, it is information. So any information can't hurt, but if you are putting the time in and you're doing the research and you're trying to get something um, to help you with your own pet and their first aid care, that's better than nothing. And hopefully, I really hope that you do find an in person class. And there's going to be more out there for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put some links in the show notes to some options that people have if you're interested. And yeah, hope everybody's pet stays safe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Enlightened Pet Behavior Podcast. I hope you and your beloved pets have found valuable insights for a more harmonious life together. Please remember that this podcast provides educational information only and is not a substitute for professional veterinary or behavioral advice. If you need personalized support, please don't hesitate to contact me and we can explore how we can work together to achieve your pet behavior goals. You can reach me at enlightenedpetbehavior.com or via email at susan@enlightenedpetbehavior.com. This episode was edited by Monty Light. Special thanks to Mac Light for composing the podcast's music. You can find him at maclightsongwriter.com. Treasure those fur babies, and I'll talk to you next time.